The moment the powerful CEO signed the hiring papers, he had no idea that his life was about to collapse and rebuild itself at the same time. The woman standing nervously across the desk, clutching her worn handbag, was not just another struggling single mother looking for a job. She was the living doorway to a past he had buried so deeply that even his own heart had stopped asking questions. And the 5 small children waiting outside that office were not strangers to him. They were his own blood, his own legacy, his own miracle waiting to be discovered. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of destiny to bring broken lives back together, then pause for just a second. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that love never truly disappears. The CEO was known across the city as a man carved from steel. His company towered over the skyline, and his reputation towered over the business world. He had risen from nothing, built everything himself, and trusted no one completely. Success had given him wealth, influence, and control, but it had also quietly taken something from him. Years earlier, before the boardrooms, before the tailored suits, before the endless meetings, he had been young and reckless and deeply in love. Then life had separated them without closure, without explanations, without a goodbye that made sense. He told himself that chapter was over, sealed away like a file locked in a vault. The woman he hired as his new secretary walked into his life like a storm disguised as calm. She was composed, polite, and professional, but exhaustion lived in her eyes. Every movement she made carried the weight of responsibility. She was not just working for herself, she was surviving for 5 children who depended on her for everything. She had applied for the job out of desperation, not ambition. Her previous employer had shut down, bills were piling up, and daycare costs were crushing her spirit. This job was her final lifeline. From the first week, her work ethic stood out. She arrived early, stayed late, learned quickly, and never complained. She organized chaos, anticipated needs before they were spoken, and handled pressure with quiet strength. The CEO noticed these things, though he pretended not to. He told himself he admired her professionalism, nothing more, yet something about her presence unsettled him in ways he could not explain. Sometimes, when she focused on her screen, the light would hit her face just right, and a strange familiarity would tighten his chest. At home, her life was nothing like the polished office floors she walked each day. She lived in a small apartment where space was scarce, but love was abundant. Her 5 children were close in age, each with distinct personalities, but all shared the same striking features. Sharp eyes, strong bone structure, and an uncanny resemblance that strangers often commented on. She brushed off those comments with nervous smiles. She had spent years avoiding questions, protecting secrets, and raising her children alone with dignity. She had never asked for help from the man she once loved, because when he disappeared from her life, she believed she had been forgotten. The CEO's world began to shift subtly. He found himself asking about her schedule, approving flexible hours, and allowing remote work when her children were sick. He told himself it was compassion, that successful leaders should support hard-working employees. But deep down, something else was guiding him. He began noticing family photos on her desk, 5 smiling faces that felt oddly familiar. One afternoon, while passing by, his gaze froze on one particular child. The resemblance was undeniable. His breath caught, his pulse raced, and for the first time in years, fear crept into his carefully controlled world. He tried to ignore it. Denial was easier than confronting the impossible. But the unease followed him everywhere, into meetings, into late-night work sessions, into his quiet penthouse where silence screamed louder than noise. He began researching timelines, revisiting memories, replaying moments from his past that he had deliberately erased. The math did not lie, the dates aligned too perfectly, circumstances forced the truth closer. A routine company health initiative required basic medical screenings for staff. The secretary hesitated but eventually complied. When the preliminary results returned, something triggered an internal review. Blood markers, genetic indicators, subtle anomalies, things most people would never notice, raised a red flag. The company doctor, bound by protocol, recommended further testing due to a potential hereditary condition that could affect immediate family members. That was when the CEO made a decision he could no longer postpone. He authorized a DNA test under the guise of corporate medical responsibility. He told himself he needed certainty, that it was purely procedural. But when the results came back, his world shattered. The report confirmed what his heart had already begun to suspect. The 5 children were his biological offspring, every single one of them. The shock did not come as an explosion but as a crushing wave. Regret slammed into him with unbearable force. Years of missed birthdays, first steps, scraped knees, bedtime stories, moments he could never reclaim. He saw clearly now how success had cost him something priceless. The woman he had hired was not just an employee. She was the mother of his children, the woman he had once loved, the life he had unknowingly abandoned. For her, the truth felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. She had lived in fear of this moment for years, terrified of judgment, rejection, or legal battles that could tear her family apart. When the CEO finally confronted the reality, she expected anger or denial. Instead, what she saw broke her defenses completely. His composure dissolved. The powerful man who ruled boardrooms stood shaken, humbled by the weight of his own absence. The days that followed were filled with emotional reckoning. He reviewed every decision he had ever made, questioning how he could have walked away so completely. He realized how arrogance and ambition had blinded him, how pride had prevented him from searching for answers when she disappeared from his life. He had assumed she moved on. He never imagined she had carried everything alone. Slowly, carefully, he began to change. He reduced his workload, delegated responsibilities, and started prioritizing what truly mattered. He arranged a larger home nearby, not as a display of wealth, but as a place where children could feel safe and loved. He attended school meetings, medical appointments, and small everyday moments that once seemed insignificant. Each smile from the children healed something broken inside him. The children, unaware of the full complexity of adult mistakes, accepted him with cautious curiosity. They sensed sincerity, not perfection. He learned that love was not about grand gestures but about presence, sitting on the floor, listening to their stories, helping with homework. These moments transformed him more than any business victory ever had. The woman watched this transformation with guarded hope. Trust did not come easily after years of doing everything alone, but consistency softened her fear. She saw effort, humility, and genuine remorse. Slowly, walls built by survival began to lower. The past could not be erased, but the future was still unwritten. As the family found its rhythm, the CEO discovered a new definition of success. Not profit margins or global expansion, but laughter echoing through hallways, shared meals, and bedtime routines. His company thrived too, led by a man who now understood empathy, balance, and responsibility on a deeper level. Just before the story reaches its end, take a moment to comment below. Tell us what you believe matters more, success or family, and why. Your voice is part of this journey. In the final moments, the CEO stood watching his children play, the woman beside him, and felt something he had never allowed himself before. Peace, the kind that comes not from achievement but from belonging. He had lost years, but destiny had given him a second chance, and this time, he would not walk away. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can survive time, mistakes, and silence, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. Stories that remind us that sometimes, the greatest miracles come from the truths we are most afraid to face.